Grab your coffee and let's get this one out there. I've been thinking a lot about my sense of belonging. I read this quote on Pinterest and it says, "This town will always be too small for all the dreams that I've held in my head. I'm sorry, but I cannot stay." And it made me think about how every time I'm at the airport for a flight to India, I'm like, I know I'm going home. And every time I land in Heathrow, I'm like, yep, I'm home. I'm home again. Where is home? And I remember always and always wanting to leave and just be somewhere else. There's a home that we leave to build a home we always craved for or just needed. And there are so many people, like people leave their homes for, some leave for education, better opportunities, marriage, and for love, and Lord knows so many other things. And given world situation, just survival. The question about one's sense of belonging is always questioned, especially for people who grew between cultures. From my perspective, I always thought, you got the best of both worlds. Like, come on. You speak more than one languages. You understand humans a little, just a little bit better because you have different understanding, a completely different upbringing from the rest of us. The thing is, the grass is always greener on the other side. They do not, they feel they do not belong to either of those cultures. And this kind of reminds me of that film, The Terminal, Tom Hanks. And if you haven't watched that film, I will highly recommend it. It's about this man who's stranded at the airport because of the war. His country no longer exists, and thus his passport is invalid. It's a beautiful film. I absolutely cried watching it. Oh, we're not getting off track this time. And also, I read this Substack article. It's called People Pleasing and the Cost of Belonging. I will link all of these down in the description so you can read them too. Or just follow me on Instagram because I put my recommendations there. A little self promo because I'm trying to learn that. But this one talks about the innate desires of humans to belong to a community, to be accepted in by other people and just be part of the pack. The human desire to be wanted and accepted is literally the core, and we all know that. We all have felt it. We all, irrespective of your attachment style, want to be chosen. But also, how it has somehow become the notion that it's weak. You have all these dreams to achieve, you have all those things to do in life, and why do you want to stay in one place? You need to change, you need to keep changing, and you need to do this and that. And sometimes to belong, you need to slow down. You need to slow down and sit with yourself and be like, this is who I am and I belong to myself. And then whoever comes along, that's part of your village. Quote from that article is, somewhere along the way, that desire begins to shift. What once started as a connection slowly turns into performance. We adjust, we agree, we soften parts of ourselves, not always consciously, but enough to be liked, enough to stay included. Over time, these small adjustments build into something heavier, a version of us that no longer that fits but does not fully exist. Looking back at people when I first met them versus who I know them to be right now, the line about that differentiates the whether they changed with life or who they simply were was revealed to me is so blur, because both of them can be true. Just that the altered version of our personality cannot be sustained for 10 long years, and we do that. We unconsciously cut parts of ourselves and silent our thoughts to be accepted by people so we can fit in. And that happens anytime you have a major change in life. You move out of the house and you live with roommates, or you move for college, you live in a different country, or you're just a child of a mixed family. Like your parents are from different cultures, and that's when you have that feeling as well. I should have been sitting the other way around. Just to give it just a minute to sink in. Because every time I meet new people, the question about my sense of belonging does spiral to an extent in the very subconscious of me. Because who am I? What do I represent? And at what point is it still me and not the personality that I particularly tailored for this particular situation or event or person? I've had people being in utter shock that I'm an introvert, which to me raises that question a million times more. How good am I at altering my personality in front of people? It's something to think about. And there's another question that article raises, that it's not about whether or not we want to belong. It's about what are we willing to give up for it. And I think that is an absolutely beautiful perspective. It kind of does bring you in the alignment of who you truly are. Because who are you? With all that being said, you cannot outsource being seen, being accepted, being chosen, yes, being belonged to something and someone, a community, yeah. But you cannot outsource that feeling of being seen. And I did make a video about being seen and what it is like. It's called The Truth of Being Seen. I said being seen too many times. And when you cannot belong to one culture, a relation, a friendship, or a community, there's just one person you belong to, and that is you. And I think the only way to do that is through acceptance and creation. The thing is, the more people we meet, the more we travel, the more we evolve and we change. And there are more alterations and different versions of us that exist within ourselves without our noticing. And it reminds me of that line, very famous line, who are you when no one's watching? And I think I'll argue that even women are sold the wrong idea or the wrong fantasy of belonging way more than men. I mean, don't get me wrong, the feeling and the desire to be wanted and accepted is natural and exists in everybody. But for women, it's been sold to them through rom-coms and love songs and all of that, because for her value lies in a man choosing her. And this conversation is kind of going in a different tangent under the same light. But it's about the validation of no matter who I am, regardless of what I've done or who I become, someone else wants me. And I think we spend a lot of our time trying to fit into that shoe. A little more pretty, a little more amiable, if you will. And when somebody chooses us out of everyone available, it makes us feel like they chose me or he chose me, so I must be valuable. And we all know that being chosen is not the same as being loved properly. And I can go on about this for hours because I've done a PhD in love. I can go on about this for hours, but maybe in another video. But for now, let's get back to the idea of belonging to oneself. For me, that idea is in acceptance, in relation to the utmost loyalty to yourself. Utmost loyalty to yourself. I accept who I have become and what has shaped me this way. That is acceptance. And then comes the creation of it, of who will I choose to be now? What do I desire now? Who do I want to be now? Now that I'm aware and have accepted all these different parts of me, who am I now? Which version of me do I choose to be? What are my values? What do I put forward from now? What is my new non negotiable? Because I have witnessed all these versions of me. I can pick and choose qualities from those different versions and build one good foundation, an unshakable foundation of who I am. And I think a much, 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 much easier way to do that is by going back to the things we love, going back to our hobbies, going back to who we were before the world started shaping us. If you were the kind of child who would draw on the walls, pick up the canvas, pick up some crayons, play some instruments, start reading again, write again, make some art, and maybe that's the start of your quest of finding yourself. And I think that's where we start to belong somewhere. I do want to apologize if there is some muffled noises. It's windy, and also there are people playing in the park is completely crowded. And I thought it was sunny outside, so I'm gonna go outside and record this video. But now the sun's hiding behind the clouds exactly when I came out. Not so funny anymore. I cannot articulate this thought in English, but it's like this is what happens when you part of different cultures and you speak multiple languages. You don't know the things, how to express them. Anyways, if you like what I talk about here and you want to read more of my thoughts or stories that I write, feel free to follow me on Substack. It's called The Scrapbook, and the link is down in the description. Also, if you are somebody who tends to spiral a lot and stays too much in their heads and needs some assistance, there is a 5 question PDF down below in the description. It's for free, and it might just help you unstuck those long chains of thoughts. Give it a try and let me know how your day was. Until next time.